What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to episode 20 of Baseball as Intended, the podcast. This is your host, Yeyo, alongside my good friend, clean-shaved Jon, who looks 10 years younger. There's a lot of baseball to talk about. We're going to be talking about the MLB's power ranking. We're going to be talking about the Mets meltdown with the Mets fan himself. Jon, Elly De La Cruz is here to stay, apparently. And he got called up. He's here to stay. Off to a hot start. We're going to talk about that. And then start bench cut of the day is going to be the NL's MVP race, which has gotten a lot closer than people maybe anticipated. Jon, I would ask you how you doing to get started, but I feel like I know how you're doing. But anything you want to say? Do you want to say hi to the people?
How do you think I'm doing?
I mean, you're not doing great.
I'm not doing well.
Yeah, you're not doing great.
I'm not doing well. I don't even want to talk about the Mets. I am excited about the other topics, though. I like the power rankings. Excited about Elly De La Cruz.
Wait, are you more excited about talking about Elly De La Cruz than the Mets?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the Mets.
Or you're going to talk about the Mets because that topic is going to be all on you. You just got to let it out. Sometimes talking is the best way of.
There's the 5 stages of grief, right? Yeah. I'm on number 5, acceptance. So if you think I'm going to just blow up, it's not. I am cool, calm, and clear. I'll talk about it. No issues here.
You should be used to it by now, no? Okay, well, okay. That look, if you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you can come back to this point. I don't know, 1 minute and 40 seconds in, you'll see Jon's face to my question, which it kind of pissed him off. So let's start with the power rankings. Let's talk about the power rankings. MLB's power ranking, as you can see here on YouTube. Again, if you're here, like it and subscribe and follow on Spotify and Apple. All that good stuff. You guys know what to do. It's all free. But power rankings, top 10 teams in baseball based on MLB. They got the Tampa Bay Rays at number 1. Texas Rangers are the second best team. Atlanta Braves at number 3. Baltimore Orioles at number 4. Arizona Diamondbacks at number 5. Dodgers 6. Houston Astros at 7th. New York Yankees at 8. We got Toronto Blue Jays at the 9th best team. And the Minnesota Twins rounds out the top 10. Jon, what is something that jumps at you? Like what caught your eye of this list?
First thing that caught my eye is the top 5. Out of those top 5, Rays, Rangers, Braves, Orioles, Diamondbacks, I think at the beginning of the year, the only team in there would have been the Braves. And That's pretty crazy. I mean, Rays in first, Rangers in second. If you didn't have either of those teams in your top 10, I don't think anyone would have really laughed at you. And now, I agree with those top 2, right? Those are like the teams to beat. Not just they've had a good year. I don't necessarily want to play them right now in a playoff series. I don't necessarily think that they're going to slow down at all. It's pretty impressive. Now, there are, I think, some people left off, and I'll let you kind of go through this, but we see the AL East is very well represented, right? They've got 2 of the top 5. They've got the Blue Jays in there, Yankee, everyone. 4 teams in the top 10. The other division that we thought was going to be a beast, the NL East, has 1, which is the Braves. Now, I think, and we'll talk about it, I think the Marlins should be in that top 10. But I think it's interesting how things are shaken out.
Who do you take out for the Marlins?
The Twins. The Twins are a 500 team. They're just there because they're leading the division, which good for them. They're leading the division. Doesn't mean you're top 10 in the power rankings. I think the Marlins are in there at 10.
It's weird.
Blue Jays are what, 4th place right now? Yeah, 4th place team. It's, again, you can look at these different ways, right? Depending, I think power rankings technically are who's the better team, regardless of standings and all that. But because of that, I think the Marlins are better than the Twins, however you look at it. And they just kind of gave them that spot at number 10.
I would probably have the Marlins at number 9, even ahead of Toronto. Toronto is in 4th place. Yeah. Yes, they're good. They've been struggling. They're kind of, I guess, they've played better as of the last week or so, but the Marlins have been on fire. I don't know. I think
Marlins
that's very
are 8-2. 8-2 in their last 10. The Braves are 8-2 in their last 10. Like, they're keeping pace with them.
Exactly, and I think that's where you see the changes in the power rankings, right? When you look at the standing, the last 10 games, who swept who, You know, Oakland A's. Maybe Oakland A's is gonna no. Maybe they're not gonna sneak into the power rankings,
They
but
might get into the top 30 if they keep this
maybe,
up.
maybe. Another team that I think should be maybe close, and to your point, it might be because of the division they're in. The Angels. The Angels are 36-31, so they are
Yes.
3 games ahead of Minnesota in the win column. So I don't know. Maybe the Angels should be there. I think Toronto has 37-30. I get Toronto being there, but that's another team that kind of got. It feels like it got left out. Interesting that you mentioned kind of like the top teams, right? Like we look at Arizona, we didn't expect them to be definitely not top 5. We thought they were going to be playing for a wild card berth. We definitely mentioned that. The Rangers, we thought they would be around that wild card 500. They're a lot better than that. Now, I know you mentioned playoff series, no DeGrom. That's going to hurt them in the playoffs, it feels like, but their offense might be like
They haven't had them all year.
Their offense is insane. Their offense is like all-time record right now. Like it's breaking all kinds of records. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with that one. I know you mentioned the NL East or the AL East. I think Baltimore is legit as well, and I think that's one thing that can make a trade in the trade deadline that can make them even better. Another team that I think can sneak in, the Phillies. I know the Mets are going downhill fast, and the Phillies, it feels like here they come again. And it feels like they do this often.
And the Phillies, it feels like they're doing it because I think we talked about this last episode. You can only wait so long. Last year, the Phillies waited till late in the year to get hot. But if they start doing it now in June, absolutely. I can see them climbing in. I would say I have more faith. You mentioned the Angels. I have more faith in the Phillies making this list at some point than the Angels. Now, maybe it's a little unfair because if you look at it right now, the Angels are a game and a half back of the Astros. And for some reason, when we think of it, we don't really put those teams in the same category. I was saying that I think Ohtani will get moved sooner rather than later. But technically, they're not that far behind the Astros. No. So it'll be interesting. I mean, the top 4, I would say right now, of these power rankings are set pretty much in stone. But you can see a lot of movement in the rest of that over the next couple of weeks.
And that's
like
the
series
thing.
to series, it feels like this stuff can start to change.
That's the thing. The Marlins are playing great. They're only a few games behind the Braves, and they're not even on the list, and the Braves are 3. They're 3rd on the list, so that kind of doesn't make much sense. I think the Yankees are in trouble. They might be on their way out of the list because
they got an easy series coming up.
Well, we'll talk about that. But they did lose a series to the last place Boston Red Sox, which, by the way, Boston, the most 500 ball club out there. They're literally 33-33. The run differentials is at 0. They are 17-16 at home, 16-17 on the road. Like, talk about an average team. That's right there.
If they could tie baseball games, they would be tying.
They would be tying game, but
only 4 back of the wild card though.
They're still within range there, and I think with the Yankees, I mean, I watched that series with the Red Sox quite a bit, and their offense is just so bad. Aaron Judge is not there, so obviously they go as he goes. He might be out for a while. Apparently, some rumors from Buster Olney might saying that he might be closer to the All-Star. That's another month or so, like another 3 weeks. Yeah. That's bad. And their offense is bad. Anthony Rizzo is 0 for 24, 0 for 25, worst streak of his career. Anthony Volpe, he's not there yet, right? He's had some moments. Electric, obviously, I think the moments in New York, it feels more.
They
maybe
amplify, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like more than what they are, but he's one of the worst hitters in baseball right now. We knew it was going to be tough, right? As a 20, 21-year-old in New York as shortstop, it's tough, and it's proven that. So I don't know who's going to be able to, I know they got Giancarlo Stanton back. I don't know who's going to be able to make that team better now. Offensively, I just don't think they have it. But yeah, not gonna say anything more about the Yankees because people think I hate them.
No, you are. I'm gonna ask you something very quickly. Volpe, right? The Yankees are in the playoff hunt. They're firmly in it. The division is obviously
they're a wild card team right now
with the Rays. Yeah, they're in the hunt. How long do they stick with Anthony Volpe? He's their shortstop of the future. He came up very hyped. I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. I think he can be the shortstop of the future. He could be a very good player. He may cost them a spot in the playoffs if he keeps hitting as poorly as he is. Do they just stick with him the rest of the year? Or do you think they have to have a tough conversation about maybe he's just not ready yet and we're in the playoff hunt and this may not be the best thing for us?
Well, my thing is like, I think you have to write with him right now unless you have a better option. I don't think they do. IKF is not a better option. IKF hits 150 as well, right? So it's like, what else do you have? Glaber has been playing decent this year, but he's your second baseman. You have LeMahieu, who's been playing third. Like, you don't want to put him at short or Glaber. Like, you want that a little bit of a better defender there. But at this point, I feel like they're just going to ride it out and see what happens.
They'll just take the good defense and hope for some offensive moments down the stretch.
If you send him down, that's one of those moves that can literally end a career. We've seen it.
Confidence like shattered, right?
Or it may take longer, right? Like we remember, we've seen it on the opposite side where Kellenic, right? The up and down, he just comes back up and he's hitting 100, and then he's sent back down hitting 400, and now started off hot. He feel like maybe he figured it out. But if you don't have a better option, you have to ride with that guy, and you pick that guy as your starting shortstop. I think that's still their best option.
And they made such a big deal about it too. Like, he's ready, he's here we go. I think it would hurt it. Kellenic always has been up and down because of the struggle. Well, prior to this year, and so it was almost like you didn't feel like his feelings got hurt when he got sent down, right? Because he was like used to it. I mean, I'm sure he wanted to stay, but you're like, go work on it. Yeah, it's a little bit of a different situation.
Do you think the Yankees calling or making Anthony Volpe their shortstop this year was a little too soon? A little premature decision there?
I mean, hindsight is always 2020, but I think maybe so. I think maybe the biggest mistake was they put all their eggs in his basket. So they went through the offseason and everything basically knowing they were going to call him up. I think that was their game plan. And so they said, we don't have to worry about shortstop. We don't even really need depth at the shortstop position. And that's what hurt them, because they don't really, like you said, I asked, should they bench him? Should they send him down? What should they do? And they don't really have another option. So I think they were a little short-sighted in that sense of, they didn't bring down a veteran that could just fill in at shortstop when they needed him. They just said, we're going to ride with him. And that's what they're going to have to do, like you said, for better or for worse. I mean, he very well may turn it on. He's a very talented prospect, but that offense, it is costing them games, like you said.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. That's a team that's on the verge on a very difficult division. So the division is probably out of reach, it feels like, but the wild card, they're definitely in it right now. So it'll be interesting to see a team that is on the verge of the wild card as well. And I think it's something that you're going to have to talk to us about. It's the New York Mets. Right now, they're currently 3 games out of that last wild card spot. Milwaukee's holding that one, who just got swept by Oakland, by the way. But let's go over the New York Mets games in the month of June before I let you have the floor. Sure. June 1st, they play the Phillies. They won 4-2. June 2nd, they lost 3-0 against the Blue Jays. June 3rd, they lost 2-1 against the Blue Jays. June 4th, they lost 6-4 against the Blue Jays. That's a sweep if you're counting. Take out the brooms. Then you go to Atlanta. You lose 6-4 against Atlanta. Then 7-5, another loss. Then 13-10, extra inning thriller there. Another loss. Then you go to Pittsburgh. Let's figure it out in Pittsburgh. You lost 14-7. Then you finally get on the win column. It feels like it's been 10 days there. June 10th, they win.
Because it has been.
They beat Pittsburgh 5-1. June 11th, they lost to Pittsburgh 2-1. And now they're going back home to New York to face the other New York team. So as we stand, the New York Mets are 31-35. Last time we talked, they were a couple games over 500. So they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. I don't know. That's all I had to say. Go ahead.
So there's a lot of like doom and gloom Mets fans out there, right? And it gets corny, to be honest. I every little thing that goes wrong. This season is over. And I am not overreacting. This is a logical baseball take. The Mets season is over. They led by 4 runs in every game against the Braves. And they lost, if you're counting, all 3. They blew 4 runs. So I just don't think you recover from that. Plus, forget the mental part. They're now 9.5 games back of the division. The wild card, the number is always less, but it's very crowded. There's a lot of teams between them and a wild card spot. And when you start to look at the makeup of the team, I just don't. I mean, I'm not going to be hypocritical. I liked the Verlander and Max Scherzer signings because they basically have this year and next year on the contract. They're getting paid a ton of money, $80 million between both of them. But after those 2 years, those contracts are off the books. Why is that good? It's good because of what they're doing right now. They're absolutely sucking. I mean, they have a couple good starts in there once in a while. But like, my silver lining right now is they'll be gone in 2 years. This doesn't tie us up for the next 10 years. What does tie us up for the next 10 years? Francisco Lindor, who's hitting .216, which I did not expect. We saw him have the bounce back year last year, right? You said, okay, he struggled his first year in New York. Then he had a good year. He's hitting .216. I mean, the Mets right now are pretty terrible. Jose Quintana was a free agent signing. He hasn't pitched once this year. Not once. They gave Brandon Nimmo a lot of money to just be Brandon Nimmo, which is middle of the road. Starling Marte hasn't been as good. The pitching isn't that good. You lose your closer, Diaz. That's how a season turns into a failure, to be honest with you. And Buck Showalter came out, and this was the nail in the coffin. I like Buck Showalter. You know this. I've defended Buck Showalter. Some people say he's too old. Buck Showalter came out after the Braves season, and I'm going to read the quote because this is just This is outrageous.
I remember like 10 minutes ago when you said, I'm not even going to lose it because I'm already in the fifth step.
This is a fact-based segment. Yeah. Buck Showalter, after getting swept by the Braves, said, I'm proud of them. I look at it as a positive. We just couldn't get outs. That's all it is. Just couldn't get outs.
Isn't getting outs part of baseball? Like, you're supposed to
get outs? It's one of the biggest parts of the game. Yeah. And maybe that's one of the advanced analytics that Buck just isn't on board with. I don't know.
So maybe he is too old?
Yeah. So I'm starting to turn tables on that. There's only one good player. Oh, yeah. I'm going to say the truth. There's only one really good player on the Mets right now. It's Pete Alonso. He's on the injured list, so he's not really on the Mets.
I was about to say, where is he at?
But, he's the consistent guy, and we've talked about this a ton, that's going to hit 260, 40 home runs, RBIs. He'll strike out the same amount every year. Not an outrageous amount, but somewhat. You need that from your stars. You can't really be a star if you're going to have a year like Francisco Lindor's having. I mean, we're on pace for Lindor now to have 2 bad years out of the 3 that he's been with the Mets. That's not sustainable. So I think it's over for the Mets, truthfully.
Can they bounce back?
It is. I said I think it's over for the Mets, so they cannot bounce back, Yeyo. I'm projecting a little anger on you right now, and I do apologize. I think it's over. Steve Cohen came out and said, I don't see that these 2 pitchers will go the rest of the year struggling at the way they have. I do. They're 40-something years old, and they came to the Mets. This is what happens.
That was the first mistake, coming to the Mets.
Yeah, the Mets have had, I feel like for a long time, the Mets' strength, everyone has always said it's the rotation. And this is from the Matt Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Steven Matz days. And they kind of had, when they lost one, they plugged in, They lost Wheeler, they brought in Bassett and all. This is when it all fell apart because you're relying on Scherzer and Verlander, and it's not working out. Senga's been up, and there's just nothing. There's nothing.
So I got a couple questions.
I feel like I answered everything, and we should just move on.
No, you didn't. Okay, so was losing Edwin Diaz, you mentioned how they were up 4 in every single game against the Braves, and they lost all of them. Do you think it would have been different having Edwin Diaz in that, that at the bullpen?
I actually do, especially now the way closers specifically, are used in different situations, right? You may bring in your closer in a high leverage 8th inning situation, bases loaded, or to face that heart of the order, that sort of thing. So I actually do think that made a difference, but he's not someone that's coming back in 2 weeks. You know, that your year is without him. I know he said that if they were in the hunt, he would try and come back in September for the playoffs. No worries, Edwin. No need to rush. We don't need you. But yeah, I actually do think that would have made a difference. Do you or no?
I mean, I'm sure they would be better than
David
what they are now.
Robertson's been good, but yeah.
It's not. He's no Edwin Diaz, right? Edwin Diaz was literally the best closer in baseball.
Well, and the help is that you would have a good David Robertson pitching
As
the
a
eighth
setup,
or
yeah.
the seventh. Yeah, so it shortens the bullpen as well.
My other question, which was related to you saying this is what happens when in New York Mets, they always have this thing, they just can't hit the pitching. We've seen, and we always talk about the Yankees playing in New York, that pressure. Joey Gallo was the worst baseball player in baseball when he was in New York, but then he left, and you see signs. Sonny Gray is another example that he sucked in New York. So we've seen this throughout the years. But we always talk about the Yankees, right? It feels like we always talk New York is the Yankees, but there's another New York team, and that's your New York Mets. Is the pressure the same, or do you think that has an effect? Like you mentioned, Lindor. We've seen what he did in Cleveland. We know what he's capable of. What is it? Is it New York?
I think it is New York. And I didn't believe that for a long time. You know this. But I think it is. I don't know. It might be more so than the fans. It might be the media. You know, they're very hard on you if you stink. They're very, very hard. And guys can say, oh, I don't read about that in the papers, yada, yada. They do. I mean, we remember Javi Baez was given the thumbs down to the fans after a month, right, of being in New York. And he was like, no, I'm not re-signing here, which is good.
They didn't want him anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, but it gives you a peek into the mindset. And if you look at a lot of the really good Mets players, especially recently, a lot of them are homegrown.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they have a better chance when they start in the Mets organization, move up in the Mets organization, and that sort of thing. A lot of the guys that come, it started with that Jason Bay thing. You remember, you're a Red Sox fan. How good was Jason Bay for you guys? And then how bad was he for every single moment when he was a Met? There's not a lot. The only free agent signing that came over too. Yeah. The only free agent signing that really came over or trade that really at least played well was Cespedes. He was the only one who from the beginning came into the high pressure, did well, then just decided he didn't want to play baseball anymore. But yeah, I think it's a real thing. I don't know. And I don't know how you factor that in when you're going after free agents, right? Is this guy going to play well in New York or not? I mean, to me, I thought Lindor was a perfect fit. But again, if this keeps up, it's 2 bad years and 1 good year for a $300 million shortstop.
I mean, they are paying you, right, in New York. So even though the pressure is there, that you're getting paid when you go to New York as well. But if you can't handle the pressure, and we've always talked about this, where New York is not for everyone. Some people are more low key. They don't like to have that attention. They don't like to have 20 microphones and cameras in their faces after every single game. I think it's New York as well. It has to be. There's no other explanation, especially when you see immediate improvement the day after they leave New York. So
yeah, they're like, oh, this is nice. Everyone's just so happy I'm on this new team, and they just dominate. It's a tough situation right now in New York. But it's weird because if you do well in New York, I feel like it's a great, you are beloved. Yeah. I mean, you're looking back like Mike Piazza, all those guys Strawberry. If you do well there, and I think that goes for any New York sport, you're an absolute legend. But if you're having a tough time, they are not going to help you out. But yeah, there should be no more pressure because this season is over.
Well, if the season is over, we may not talk about the Mets a whole lot in the upcoming episodes.
Over? Tell me it's over.
I'm not going to tell you it's over.
No. Tell me it's over. Like, I'm right here. Tell me it's over.
Well, I'm going to give you some positive news. Just a couple. I know you said that there's a lot of teams in front of them in the wild card. Some teams include Cincinnati Reds, which we're going to talk about just now, or in a second. San Diego Padres, who have been, we can say that they've been a disappointment. We mentioned about Philly, right? Philly's starting to get hot, maybe 7-3 in the last 10. Another team is that San Francisco Giants, 500 ball club right there. They're very, very close to the Boston Red Sox. So 3 of those teams can just go downhill as the Mets get hot. Okay, never mind. Season's over. Okay.
Here's the thing, just very quickly. The funny thing about that is You mentioned these three teams, like the Mets can catch them, right? Realistically, like that was these are three teams that are in front of the Mets.
Milwaukee is the third.
They're in front of the Mets. They're better than the Mets.
Yeah, that's it. That was the point.
That's it.
Bad teams are better than the Mets. That's what you're saying.
And I hope to God that I don't let the Mets do this to me again this year. When they go win 7 out of 8 at some point and reel me back in, don't let it happen. Don't let it happen. I will not allow this to happen.
I'm gonna look at the Mets schedule coming up. Let's see if it's a possibility. Okay.
It's brutal. They got the
Okay, they got the Yankees.
Yep.
They got the Cardinals, who are worse than the Mets, if we're going off a record. And then you got the Astros. Underperformed a little bit. Then the big Philly series, late June. Then Brewers. I mean, so Phillies, Brewers, that's teams that are ahead of you. You have a chance to make up some games. Then the Giants. That's 3 series in a row of teams that are ahead of you currently. I don't know.
Teams
it can
that
happen.
are better than us. Yeah.
So you can beat them maybe.
I say we play again. Alonso is out right now, and he's the only under 500 for that stretch. We'll revisit under 500.
Under 500. Well,
love the Mets. Love the Mets. Was very high on the Mets, but when reality hits you in the face, you got to wake up.
Well, it happened again, I guess. Yeah, so they're not very good, but a team that has basically the same record as them, literally the same record as them, is the Cincinnati Reds. But the Cincinnati Reds are red hot right now. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. Cincinnati have not had this much electricity in the stadium in so long because they called up their best prospect in probably history. Elly De La Cruz, a 21-year-old out of the Dominican Republic, 6'5" frame. Like, this kid is a absolute machine, right? He's a switch hitter that apparently is the fastest player in baseball. He literally came out and said, "I'm the fastest person alive in the world,"
right?
Which I think is tough to. I don't believe that, but he's
very
fast.
Don't believe him, but
he's very fast. He's already played in a few games. His first home run or his first hit was like 112 mile an hour line drive, fastest, hardest hitting ball that the Cincinnati Reds have had all year. Then he hit a 460-foot bomb in the second game. He
almost left the stadium.
That was an insane. And then the whole negotiations with the kids. What are we gonna do? Give me my $100,000, $200,000, anyways. But
yeah.
Anyways, and then he also has 3 stolen bases. He got an infield hit on a grounder, on a chopper to shortstop, and another infield hit on a grounder to first base. Literally.
Yes.
So he's fast. He's electric. He is a 5-tool player. Obviously very young. There's gonna be ups and downs. What do you think about Elly De La Cruz? And we always and I know both of us, we're not very big as far as like in prospect. We don't know a whole lot of them, but what's your take on Elly De La Cruz and the Cincinnati Reds? How all this hype now? You got Reds fans coming out of nowhere. I didn't know there were so many of them.
Are there bandwagon Reds fans right now?
No,
Not
I
quite.
just
Not quite, right?
I mean,
but some people are pulling the hat out of the closet, dusting it off, and saying,
"I knew this day would come."
I'm a Reds fan.
And they haven't watched a game since, I don't know, Barry Larkin was there.
Yeah. No, I think, so I'll look at it a little bit, the Reds as a whole. The Reds are overachieving this year, right? We talked about it from the beginning of the year. We thought we had them last place, right? Pegged pretty much in the division. I think that's where we
them
had them.
Them and Pittsburgh. Them and
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Surprise!
Yeah. So they're overachieving to begin with. It's like a feel-good story over there. They're playing well. They're in the playoff hunt, whether you think they're going to make it or not. And then they go, let's just add a little extra to it. Bring up our top prospect. Awesome. He comes out and does exactly what he was supposed to do. He's doing the same thing as O'Neal Cruz. Basically, the first ball he hits, they're like, he's breaking StatCast. Then he's hitting bombs. He's like... In this first week that he's been up, he's been able to showcase all of his tools, which is awesome. I mean, he ran through a stop sign at third. Did you see that? Yeah. And I don't know how he scored on that. Yeah, I don't know. He even looked out to the naked eye, and then you're like, he got in there.
Yeah.
So this is awesome, not only as a feel-good story, but you're taking a team that's overperforming a little bit in a really weak division, and you're saying, hey, here's a reason to stay interested for at least the next month or two,
Yeah.
and then see where we stand. And I think that's awesome for Cincinnati. I think it's absolutely awesome. It's something that they can build on. And I think this is how you almost speed up the rebuilding process, because these young guys have to get confidence when you're rebuilding a team. Look at what Baltimore did. Last year, we saw Baltimore the second half of the year, and we said they've got a good ball club and they played really well last year. Let's see how they build on it. Now they've built on it even more than we could have imagined. But I think Baltimore sped up the rebuilding process by how well they did. I think Cincinnati maybe finds themselves in a spot where, okay, maybe we're a little bit ahead of schedule if we can go ahead and continue some success this year. So I think it's awesome. And he looks absolutely electric. Two really good young shortstops in that division, kind of going at it. I mean, when O'Neal Cruz comes back, but it's awesome.
It's good for baseball, right? Like
Yes.
when we see these top prospects hit and I mean hit as in they come up and they start producing since day one, it's good for baseball. Everybody's talking about them. Nobody has been talking about Cincinnati baseball over the last decade. So it's good for baseball in general. I'm curious to see, obviously, how he adjusts. It's the first week. We sometimes see this with young guys as far as before the other teams make the adjustments, the necessary adjustments.
Yep.
He has, so he's played what, 7 games, 6 games. 6 games. He has 22 at-bats, 10 strikeouts, but he also has 5 walks. So it's kind of like weird, right? Like his on base it's like almost 500. Very fast, electric. They can do it all. I mean, at this point, I'm rooting for the guy because I think is good for the game itself. But it's very interesting. Again, you have to hit it in these prospects. Like you have to hit in prospects because I always look at, like, for example, as a Red Sox fan, Bobby Dalbec, young guy, he's going to come in and take over first base. Well, he's hitting 190. He's going to be sent down back. Okay, don't worry. We got Tristan Casas. Oh, well, he's hitting 200. And so, like it's tough when those young guys don't pan out how the team expect them to.
Yeah.
And I think
you can only sign so many free agents that perform. Some of them have to come in-house.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's very good. Do you think he has a chance at Rookie of the Year? We might talk about.
I think it's a little late.
Yeah,
I think it's a little late, but again, there is someone else that looks like they got it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little late, but it doesn't mean that he won't make a big splash. Like you said, the strikeouts, when you combine it with the walks, I don't know so much that, because it's something when someone's really chasing stuff out of the zone, right? And they look lost and all that. This is a guy that swings hard. A lot of his strikeouts are just going to come from that, but you're going to get the trade-off with the triples and the home runs and that sort of stuff. So if he's walking and he just strikes out because he doesn't want to get cheated, I think that's okay. I do think it does have to do a lot with the adjustments. We'll see. Julio Rodriguez last year was otherworldly. And this year he's hitting, 240 something, but his on base percentage is very low, right around 300. So these pitchers make adjustments, and the hitter then has to adjust back. That's like the final step to really see how good someone is. So I wouldn't be surprised if he rakes for a long time here this year, and then we'll see some adjustments and kind of see how he responds. But it's electric. You like seeing that athleticism in baseball. Baseball is fun regardless, but when you see people do things that most players can't do, it just adds a different layer.
He's a freak of nature. He's 6'5", doing things that 6'5" humans don't typically do. So that's why it's like, oh my God, that looks so different. Like that home run that he hit. So he's also 21. Like, it's not normal.
And we saw him in the minors. This was just like O'Neal Cruz. Before he called up, you started seeing the viral, he hit it over the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. He did it this is the prospect. And then comes up and just delivers. It's hard to deliver in that first week, but it's very fun. Yeah.
We're gonna be looking into what he does moving forward, but we're also gonna be looking into the NL MVP. We got the start bench cut of the week. Is gonna be NL MVP. We did the AL MVP in the past, but today we got to talk about the NL because I know when we did the AL MVP for a start bench cut, we talked a little bit about the NL, how it was basically a one-man race. But I think that has changed a bit, and it's not necessarily because that one man slowed down. He really hasn't. But two other guys are coming in and saying, like, hey, we're here to stay, and we're making our team better as well. So, start bench cut of the week is going to be a NL MVP. We got Ronald Acuna out of the Atlanta, Corbin Carroll out of Arizona, and Luis Arraez from the Florida Marlins. We talk about the power rankings. We talk a little bit about some of these guys, but again, full disclosure, disclaimer, whatever you want to call it, there's no right or wrong answer. Like it's very close.
Brutal.
But
yeah.
What you got?
You start. Can you start this one?
You want me to start with the start or with the bench?
You can start with whoever.
I'll start with the bench.
Okay, I like that.
I'm gonna bench Luis Arraez. Now, I did say that I think the Marlins should be a top 10 team in the power rankings. I do think they deserve to be there, and it's in large part of what Luis Arraez is doing. I think him hovering around 400 is not even talked about enough, and I know it's been everywhere. It's still not enough because we haven't seen anything like this in the past 20, 25 years. Out of all the other guys, between Arraez, Corbin Carroll, and Luis Arraez, I do think that is the most impressive thing that we have. Like, it's like, Ronald Acuna is on pace for 30-70, and I still think hitting 400 would probably be more impressive than that. And we haven't seen 30-70 either. But if 400 is just that much tougher. Now, the team, I think I do count MVP. I got to take into consideration a little bit about the record. Atlanta and Arizona are 40-win teams right now. The same cannot be said for the Marlins. Now they're close. They're close. They're a wild card team right now. They're a few games behind Atlanta, but I just wish he hit a little bit for more power. But at the same time, he's hitting over 900 OPS. I don't know. I just got to bench somebody. So I'm gonna bench Luis Arraez, and I hope he hits 400. I still think he's gonna end around 370 something, which is still unheard of. But I'll bench him.
I don't like this one, to be honest. And I'll circle back to it at the end.
Are you gonna bench? Are you gonna tell me who you're gonna bench?
I am. I'm going to right now. Just give me a second.
I didn't know if you were gonna tell me where Arraez was on your list.
I'm gonna bench Corbin Carroll for the simple fact that I think he's second right now in the MVP race. It's that simple. He can do it all. He hits for some power, right? He's not necessarily the premier home run hitter. Drives in runs, average, incredible speed. I mean, initially when Corbin Carroll came up, I saw him as a speed-focused guy, that they were going to say, hey, everything's going to be based off speed. He's going to be a spark, that sort of player, which you're like, hey, great. I'm excited to see it. Really fast player with some tools. He's definitely more than that. And I think he's having an incredibly well-rounded season for a team that is in, first place, surprisingly so. So that puts you right smack dab in the middle of the MVP race. Right now, he's not leading the league in anything, however. And if we look at these other two guys, Luis Arraez is leading the league in a lot of stuff. Acuna is up there with the leaders. Corbin Carroll is not. He's just having a very well-rounded position or season. Great for the Diamondbacks. He's everything he's been advertised. I'll bench him for now.
I think that's very interesting. He may not be leading the league in anything, but he's very good. 13 home runs,
That's
19 stolen bases.
Knock. It's not a huge knock. No. Yeah.
He does have a 3-point WAR so far, which is 0.3 higher than Luis Arraez. But yeah, no, I think, again, it's just, you got to bench somebody. Yeah. So you decided to bench Corbin Carroll. So I'm guessing I'll go.
You go.
I'll bench Corbin Carroll. I'm benching Corbin Carroll.
You just benched Corbin. No. You just benched Arraez.
No, I meant. Oh my God! Listen, I'm cutting Arraez. I'm benching Corbin Carroll. Listen, I just. That's on me. Listen,
you can't do that. You already benched.
Now I gotta cut Corbin Carroll. I don't want to cut Corbin Carroll. Can I bench him too? Okay, I'm starting Acuna.
I think we're gonna agree. That's fine. Go
Okay.
through. I think this is the first one that we're gonna end up agreeing on.
Yeah, I think I have to start Acuna because what he's doing for the best team. I know Arizona is now tied with Atlanta record-wise, but what Acuna is doing is just crazy. Like, and I remember going to that WBC game, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and I remember how he was struggling. The Venezuela fans were literally booing Ronald Acuna, and then he had an infield hit, and after that, Acuna changed, and I was like, that's what's gonna get him going. It hasn't slowed down since.
Yeah.
331 batting average, 13 home runs. He has 28 stolen bases, and a lot of times we see these superstars with big contracts, which it's not as big as he deserves, but it's still a big contract for Atlanta. And we don't see these guys trying to steal bases. And I know there were some rule changes and whatnot, but he's leading the league in caught stealing too. You know, he's going. He is trying to steal.
He's only like what, 5 caught stealings?
5.
It's not great. Yeah.
No,
okay.
but I'm saying like he's going often.
He's making a conscious decision. I'm going to steal bases this year.
He's going often. I love the fact that he's cut down a little bit on the strikeout rate, but the walk rate is very high. Right now, he has 30 walks, 40 strikeouts. That's very good for somebody that good with that much power. He's just electric to watch. He's good. So I'll just start Acuna. I think he's still the MVP, but it's a lot closer than what we thought 3 weeks ago.
Tightened up.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
It's tightened up quite a bit. I agree with you. I have Acuna as the MVP front runner, where he's been really since the beginning of the year. You pretty much went over all the stats there. I think this was also a really big kind of bounce back year for him. Everyone knew what Acuna was capable of, but I think there were some doubts creeping in around baseball of, is he going to do it? Because when Acuna slumps and he's not playing well, I mean, he wears it on his sleeve. You see it on his face. It affects his defense. It almost affects everything. So he needed to get out to a hot start this year, and he has. And once you see that, you're like, he's not slowing down, which I don't think he will. He is my front runner. I'm with you. I'm starting him. I think he wins the MVP with one caveat. The guy that I'm cutting, that we're both cutting, Luis Arraez.
I'm not.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. If Arraez hits 400 and the Marlins make the playoffs, he's my MVP.
Yeah. So if
you can throw all the stats at me at that point of what everyone else did, that's fine. The Braves have won division titles with Acuna, without Acuna, with Acuna playing well, Acuna playing badly. The Marlins have not been in contention for a long time, in real contention. So, and Alcantara's not been pitching very well. They've made some good moves. They've done well. Chisholm's been hurt and all that. If he manages to hit 400 and they make the playoffs, I treat it as a most valuable to the team award, and I would give it to Arraez. I don't know that he would get it, but he would be my MVP.
So I got a 2-part question, I guess. If they make the playoffs, you're saying wild card, they don't have to win the division. And if he hits 400, so let's say he hits 388, and they made the wild card as the third team, is that still your MVP?
So
or does it? Do you think that 400 is that valuable?
I think the 400
because it's a batting
automatic.
title, right? Like it's all the batting title, but
I think the 400 makes it automatic. Once I hear the 400, you can, like I said, you could throw all the other stats at me that you want. I'm going to cover my ears and I'm going to say he hit 400. They made the playoffs. He's the MVP because no one else has done that. And who knows if it'll ever get done again.
So for me,
people have done it in the past, but recent history. But if he hits 388, to answer your question, if he hits 388, they sneak into the playoffs. I'd say he deserves to be in the running. But if they don't give it to him, I would understand. You know, he just had an incredible year. For me, if he hits the 400, he's automatically the MVP.
This feels a little bit of a Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge MVP race. Talking about historic, the historic value that has. We knew what Ohtani did. And it was historic, and Aaron Judge needed a historic season to get that MVP, right?
Overcome it, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Arraez hitting 400 is obviously historic. We may never even see it. But also Acuna is hitting 330, and he could be the first player ever to hit 30 home runs and have 70 stolen bases. Like, that's also a first, which We've seen people hit 400. We've never seen anybody do 30 home runs, 70 stolen bases. So on a first place team too. So I think I get it. Like, it would be so tough not to vote for somebody that hit 400 and led the team to a playoffs. But it's not like Acuna's having a bad year, you know?
No, he's the front runner. I'm betting on Acuna right now to win the MVP. I just don't understand how in today's game, with the pitching the way that it is, that you can hit 400. I don't understand it. So if he does do it, like, I have to award him for that in some way. And again, we combined it with if he does that and they make the playoffs. I think if he hits 400 and they make the playoffs, it's probably in large part because of him. I don't think they would be there if he was hitting 290.
You want to know how he's hitting almost 400? So he has 229 at bats, 253 plate appearances. I know you saw the stats, but maybe you didn't focus on this one. How many strikeouts do you think Luis Arraez has in 253 plate appearances?
I'm scared to go too low.
Yeah, but you know it's
20?
low.
Is he around 20?
13.
Wow.
On 19 walks, 13 strikeouts.
That's why some things in baseball don't change. Some things don't. I understand if you want to hit for power, you could do this. If you want to get on base, you got to make contact. You have to make contact. And we've seen, you talked about it last
the baseball
episode,
savant.
how many he just puts in a hole, bloops in front of the outfielders. Now, I do wish, I'm with you, I wish he displayed a little bit more power, which it feels like he has, because in the WBC, he actually did hit for some power. But it seems like he's made a conscious decision this year. And I think as he sees how high his average is, I'm going to get base hits.
His OPS is 931 anyways. He has 15 doubles to 31 doubles he had last year with 8 home runs. Like, that's not him, right? And him looking like, yes, we want to see at least 10, 15 home runs. But if he does that, go for 400. Forget it. We'll just hit your 3 home runs.
Yeah, and you don't need 330 with 10 homers. Give us 400 with 2.
Yeah,
that's
100%. 100%.
But yeah, that's an interesting one, because Arraez is third, I think, clearly with us right now. But if he does this, he jumps into like a competition. I don't think you'd give it to him. I think you still maybe give it to Acuna if Acuna keeps on. But there is a real debate there.
I just think Corbin Carroll and Arraez are almost tied, just because, yes, Arraez is having the better year. Corbin Carroll is going to be the rookie of the year. But the same thing, Arraez or Corbin Carroll is leading that team. They're in first place in a division that it was supposed to be Dodgers, it was supposed to be San Diego, maybe even the Giants, not Arizona. And they're in first place with the best record in the NL, you know, and
it's in the power rankings.
Crazy. Fifth in the power ranking. That counts for something, I think. But yeah, that will do it for us. Episode 20. You want to walk us off? Anything you want to add?
Big series next couple days. Subway Series, Mets, Yankees.
I thought you said the season's over. Why is it a big season? What? I don't get it.
It's always a big series.
Okay. Well,
I'm a little disheartened, but I'm gonna get up for those games, and that'll be my last.
Yeah. So
cast.
Subway Series is always fun, but then again, is it the same without Judge and Pete Alonso?
Well, yeah, and the teams need to be good. They need to be fighting for something. Yeah. So never mind. Tune out. Don't watch.
Well, on that note, we will call it. Episode 20 of the Baseball as Intended podcast is done. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, and Apple and Spotify. Follow, TikTok, Instagram, the whole thing. Thank you so much for checking us out, and we will see you on the next one.
Adios.